I do see all board members there present. So the board will now convene open session and report out from closed session. The Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, February 16, 2021 will be conducted completely online. Executive Order N-29-20 supersedes prior instructions and prohibits a gathering space, even if social distancing guidelines are followed. Live streaming on YouTube will begin now for the open session of the Board of Education meeting. The URL for the YouTube live streaming may be found on the New Haven Unified School District Board of Education webpage. If you would like to provide public comment for this meeting, you may do so by utilizing the raise your hand option in Zoom. Or if you are calling in by phone, please press *9 and wait to be called on. Community members can also provide comments to the board ahead of the meeting via our public comment at New Haven Unified School District.k12.ca.us email address. Prior to this meeting, there was one comment received and it was provided to the board members. Additionally, we want to remind the public that we will not be responding to the questions posed by those making public comment this meeting. Relative to the closed session, items number 3.1 through 3.4, there was no action taken by the board. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Velasco.
Here.
Canlis.
Here.
Gonzalez.
Present.
Nishihira.
Here.
Schwen Mallory.
Here.
Chima.
Yes, thank you. Agenda item number 5.2, may I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
I need
Second.
second. Any comment or concerns from the board members? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Velasco.
Here.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Thank you. Agenda item number 6.1, because of the COVID-19 shelter in place order, the district has provided the opportunity for community members to address the board via email at public comment at New Haven Unified School District.k12.ca.us. The deadline to submit requests was today at 2 p.m. and no emails were received for topics not on agenda. Are there any community members that wish to address the board on topics that are not on the agenda? Please raise your hands now. I do see one hand. Association President Joe. So I will call you and you have 2 minutes to speak. Let's see. Okay, you may start your comments now.
Okay.
President Joe.
Good evening, President Chima, members of the board, Dr. Thompson, and district staff, and of course, community members in the gallery. Thank you for the time. I did just want to state that, as you know, we submitted, the NHTA Rep Council submitted a resolution that was passed last week, or the week before, at our Rep Council regarding the resolution opposing the current California Assessment Student Performance and Progress Testing coming up this spring. As you know, last year at this time, the state actually put a waiver because they also believed at that time the environment set up for testing wouldn't be as valuable as it is in traditional format. And as you know, we're back still in the same kind of predicament with even more knowledge of how much impact the current virtual learning environment has on students. And speaking in terms of testing, we again agree that it's not the very best environment. It also shows very clearly in the extreme from real similar to vastly dissimilar for different households in terms of their resources for providing a real equitable testing environment. So with those base things in mind, we hope that you and the board and perhaps Dr. Thompson can support our resolution and take a stand on the inappropriateness of doing testing at this time in the same format that they provided a waiver last spring. So again, we urge you to maybe draft a similar resolution and support this effort to stop inappropriate use of student testing for evaluation and assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, President Joe Angeles, for your input. Next agenda item is 7.1. That's a hearing of visitors on.
Oh, man.
Did we lose Miss Chima?
Okay, so it's not just me then.
Nope,
Yeah, I believe trustee Chima has frozen.
Yeah.
she has.
So this would be for hearing, we can maybe give her a minute, and then this would be if we have any speakers on agendas, topics on the agenda, we can at least see if we, I don't think we do, but.
Well, would the point of order, would the appropriate protocol be for the clerk to take over the presentation of the meeting?
Yeah, why don't we, I can help with this. Oh, looks like.
Yes,
mute.
I can. It looks like she's back,
You're on mute, Sarabjit.
but yes,
You're
in
on
this
mute.
instance,
No.
I guess the clerk will.
So, no, what was happening? You might see that I'm frozen, but I was seeing you all were frozen in time. I felt like I was able to see myself in action, but none of you were alive, so to speak, on the screen. So, oh, I'm glad we are all back.
Yeah, we took care of the whole agenda. It's over. We finished.
We're done.
Okay.
No,
Melissa did a great job.
Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
did. Very fast, quickest meeting ever.
we're right where you left off on
Yeah.
item
So we were on,
7.1.
yeah, 7.1. We did receive one email and that was sent to the board. So are there any community members that wish to address the board on topics that are on the agenda? Please raise your hands right now. I don't see any raised hands. Do you see any other raised hands, Lori? No. So there are no speakers. Next agenda item is 8.1. I would like to call upon Superintendent Thompson to provide us about the update on school reopening. I know as board members, we are getting so many emails or calls or from the parents, what is happening. So let's hear from our superintendent, Dr. Thompson. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it, right? Perfect, given what's going on at the state level and the federal level and the local level. It's a perfect time to have this. So I am going to share my screen and present here. So, all right. Okay, so here we are. So this is the same format I've used in the past. I just kind of update the same presentation with the current conditions. And here we go. We talk about our local conditions, what it means for us, our reopening plan, and how that might look with a timeline in terms of where things are, in terms of the local conditions and everything, and the state and federal conditions that may affect us. So I'll go through this. As you know, we are still in the purple tier, although we've been dropping rather precipitously in the last few weeks. Last week, the public health officer for the county, Dr. Moss, anticipated that we would probably enter the red tier within a matter of weeks. And so we'd be looking at entering the red tier at some point in the middle of March, around there. And the significance of that is that it would allow more schools to open. And we'll talk about that a little more in the update. So K-5 schools are currently allowed, where we are in the purple tier, are allowed to reopen if we submit a COVID safety plan and have it approved by the county. So that is something that we'll talk more about that coming up. And that's true as long as case rates stay between 8 and 24 per 100,000. So just talked about the CSP. Around the county, last week we had our all-call superintendents meeting on Wednesday, and as of that date, of the 18 districts in the county, there were a few there was only one that was moving forward into reopening in the purple tier, and that's Piedmont. And Piedmont, the conditions there are quite a bit different than they are in the rest of the county for a number of reasons. So they have actually reopened to some elementary grades and are planning to open, I think, get to where they can get all the way up to 6th grade at some point. And I think it's by the end of the month. But they're the only district in the county that I'm aware of that is trying to open in the purple tier. There were, of the 18 districts, I think 8 others that had some type of target. And it was typically it would be in the red. Once you were in the red for a week or two, and then, looking at reopening in a staggered way there. So that would be nobody wants to circle a date. Everybody that's tried to circle a date on the calendar about when we're going to reopen has had to retract that. So there isn't a superintendent out there right now that wants to circle a date on the calendar and say, yep, this is when we're opening. But there are schools that are school districts, about 8 of the school districts of the 18 in the county that are trying to at least shoot for some type of red tier opening. Of those districts, most of them don't have agreements with their bargaining units yet. So that would only be possible if they can get to the point where they have an agreement with their bargaining units to do so. A few of them do. For example, Castro Valley, I think, has an agreement with at least their elementary teachers to reopen after you've been in the red tier for 2 weeks. So that is that. The rest of the districts, particularly those down the corridor, the 880 corridor, Oakland, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Hayward, New Haven, Fremont, Newark, none of those districts have anything. Nobody's identified a red tier opening date, and probably for good reason. If you take a look at the COVID hotspots that are identified by the county, they're all within that corridor. And so that creates a little different view, I think, among the communities that are working in those areas. Our area is Southern Hayward has been identified as one of the COVID hotspots, which I don't think is any surprise to us. Anyway, so that's the around the county update. Hayward, just to kind of bookend things, Piedmont is open. Hayward has already decided, as I think we shared before, that they are not going to reopen for in-person instruction this year. And so that's kind of the bookends of how the county's working like that. Okay, so for us, once we got into that area where schools could open, we stopped being in a holding pattern. We have put together the new version of the plan, which is at least the version of the plan for now. And I'll talk about why that might change again later. There's 2 components of it. There's the Cal OSHA part, which is the part that's the COVID protection plan, or the CPP. And then there's a COVID safety plan, which is what's required by the state. And again, at least what was required of the state, that could change again real quickly here. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the COVID safety plan, the CSP, also has to take in both our previous reopening plan that was approved in December, and then also the CPP, the newly developed COVID protection plan, which we have. Those 2 become part of the CSP that we would submit for reopening. And we basically have that put together. And the question is when to submit it. If you're in the red tier, you don't have to submit it to the county. You just have it posted on your website. If you're in the purple tier, it's something that has to get approval by the county. Testing for staff. So we've been doing that successfully, like I've talked about, and we're in the process of trying to move it out to our sites to make sure that all of our sites now have, I think they all have functioning pods, small group learning going on. And so we have the ability to test staff at no cost. So we are in the process of pushing that out to our sites, and that it's a bit of work, but we want to make sure we have that in place. That's one of the things we need to have in place moving forward. Testing for students is a hurdle. We are there is a testing agency, Valencia Labs, that has worked with the state and the Alameda County Department of Ed, Office of Ed. And we are exploring using them to test students. The problem is that is not a no cost testing option. And that could cost us money that we don't have. If we were to test every student, it could be $600,000 per cycle. If it was half the students, like our elementary students, you can half that, so about $300,000 per cycle. And right now, if we followed the state's protocol, that would be a weekly testing cycle. Right now, nobody's written us a check to pay for that. So that is a hurdle. I don't even think Piedmont, at least last I checked last week, they didn't have a plan to test students that I'm aware of as of last week. And they're the only district that's open in our county. Okay, so vaccinations are kind of exciting. I've shared before, we're in the 1B group. I've shared that the county is coordinating vaccination efforts, which we really appreciate. We've submitted our list of the categories of testing candidates that are to the county that they requested. They do not, however, again, still have a timeline for when their tiers, their categories would be able to be actually tested. The plan is to issue letters verifying that, I'm John Thompson, I'm an employee of the school district, I'm in the 3rd category of groups to be tested. I can take this letter and go where? That's the question. The where part has not been answered. And right now, the county does not have any arrangements with any Kaiser, Blue Shield, any agency to give the test. But, they're trying. But the breaking news is this. And this is over the weekend. I found out this morning that the Oakland Coliseum site, which is not a state-run site, it's controlled by FEMA. And I don't know if did I spell, or is that the right acronym? FEMA. Is there 2 M's in there? I don't remember.
Yeah, FEMA. Yes.
So that's
Yes, it is.
okay. That's good. Thank you. So FEMA, this is the Joe Biden 100 days with all of his testing protocol, and the Coliseum is the only site I'm aware of in the Bay Area that is federally run. And so there's a couple things that go along with that. First, a supply is guaranteed, where a lot of you are hearing in the newspaper that, the Moscone Center, which is a state-run site, had to close because they don't have vaccines. The LA Coliseum had to close because they don't have vaccines. This site is guaranteed to have the vaccines. And apparently over the weekend, they sent out notices. They did it through labor groups, that those in the 1B group here are eligible to go get vaccines. And we've had, as I understand it, teachers and staff members in our district that have successfully been able to go through that. You can go on there and check it out. I mean, it's available to anybody that's in those categories. So, any of us could go, any food workers, anybody in that group. One of the things I want to point out, though, is that it is totally separate from the county's efforts, which is trying to work with state agencies. This is a free-for-all. If you're in that category, go sign up. Anybody can do it. We're going to get out a clarification to our staff tomorrow, because we were so geared up around what the county was doing and the different categories. And boy, Assistant Superintendent McNamara's department spent a lot of time getting those all figured out. And I think there's confusion that, well, how does that work that the county's doing, and the letters we're going to get, how does that mesh with the FEMA side of the Coliseum? And the answer is it doesn't. So anybody, if you fall in those eligibility categories, if you can, go on to the Coliseum website, get an appointment, get tested. Don't wait for the county's efforts, because it's totally separate and there's no timeline for that. So that's really good news. I have teacher friends and colleagues and teachers in our district that I know of that have already been able to get into that site, even though I think it was just released over the weekend. So that is really good news, and could, if appointments are, I don't know how many people are aware of it, so it might get more difficult to get these appointments as time goes on. But at least as of today, there were appointments that were available. So anyway, that's good news. So this is where things get complicated again. Last week, this federal government issued their new reopening school guidelines, and not a lot of earth-shaking changes for us. Their categories for reopening are less restrictive than our states, which is good, I guess. And then they've kind of reaffirmed they were down to 4 feet spacing recommended for students, and I think now they're back to 6 feet, which is fine because that's what we were already planning for doing anyway. So those are the only real significant things that are part of that. They are not recommending linking reopening to vaccination, so that was part of their guidelines. But that isn't really the big driver for us, because those are recommendations, and the state needs to issue their plan. And they've been negotiating. If you've been paying attention, the governor was supposed to release the revised plan. When he issued his reopening plan at the end of December, because there was money attached to it, it required legislative approval. And he can't get the legislature to approve his plan as it was. He was hoping to have an agreement worked out that would have the new plan ratified last week. That didn't happen. And apparently things it's tough going up there, trying to get the new plans worked out. So for us, what that means is how we're proceeding forward could change again. And for those of you that have been paying attention, we've been shooting for a moving target consistently, and the target will move again probably. For example, one of the areas I know that is under intense discussion up there is the idea of making vaccination reopening contingent upon access to vaccination first. If that's the case, it really it will, until we get a better idea of how quickly our staff members can be vaccinated, our timeline gets really put off. We would probably go back into a holding pattern again if that's the case. If it's less restrictive, or they adopt the federal government's guidelines, it would allow us to continue down that road of reopening. So there is a lot that could change coming up. I don't know where that's going to go. I don't have any insight. For us, just to be a quick recap, we're in what we're calling phase 2, which is where we have distance learning and in-person learning. And again, every one of our school sites has pods that they're working on with small groups of students that have been identified that really need that extra in-person support. But the key distinction is it's in-person learning, so they're still Zooming. They just have a structured place to do it. And phase 3 is where we're really talking about, and that's where people are interested in, is can we get students back into in-person instruction, which means that they're in a classroom in front of a teacher learning that way. And so that's the part that's the challenge. So for us, this is what a timeline could look like. And this is the same graphic I've shown since way back in November, and we keep updating it. So we are, we're moving along and checking the boxes, and trying to make sure that the variables we can control, we're taking care of. And you can see we've started our in-person learning pods. Making sure we know which staff members can't come back is important. We send out a survey to our staff members a couple of weeks ago. They were all due today. So we should have an idea of who can't come back for in-person learning this year due to changing circumstances or medical needs or things like that. So that will help us figure out if we have enough teachers to come back if we do come back in person, that we would have enough teachers that can actually do that. We have more or less completed our new COVID safety plan, and we just need to put the final touches on that. And then when we're ready, it won't take us much to be able to press go and submit that. And once we get a few more details worked out, we'll be able to know when we should do that. Again, employee testing, we're scaling that out to our sites. We don't have any ability to test students at this point, and I don't know when we will or if we will. We may bring the Valencia contract for testing students for services to the board in March. But again, that only means that we would have access to a testing resource, but we still don't have a budget to pay for that. Maybe Biden's new plan or the state, when they approve whatever they're approving, will free up some money to provide extra resources for that. If we do need, the next two pieces kind of go hand in hand. So the last piece of our puzzle is, well, not the last piece of our February puzzle would be figuring out where our community stands. And certainly I'm getting emails regularly from both groups of parents that don't want us to reopen and parents that do want us to reopen. And I certainly understand both sides of that. So the question will be, is how many parents would be willing to commit to coming back in person to a hybrid model, how many parents would be willing to commit to have their students stay in distance learning and want us to do that? And then, one of the rubs, one of the challenges is when we get, and we'll talk about that when we get into the March piece, is how many parents would prefer to have their students stay with their teacher, regardless of whether it's distance learning or in-person learning. As we see other school districts wrestle with these issues, that seems to be a big consideration, is that we have certain families and certain students that they don't want the disruption of having to change a teacher, perhaps even change a school site. And so they'd rather just stay where they're at, and it doesn't really matter what the medium is because they don't want that kind of change. So once we get that information, we'll be able to figure out how many teachers we need to come back for in-person instruction. And at this stage, again, the only thing that's allowable, it would be elementary if we have everything goes right moving forward. And again, this is a tentative timeline. So I want to emphasize that this is what it could look like if everything falls into place. So again, all it would take is for the governor's new plan to make reopening contingent on the access to vaccine, and this timeline disappears. So it could be as simple as that. If we send out the parent survey, and I'll talk about when we might do that, and we don't get enough parents that want to return their students to reopening, it could be involved, and we wanted to do some type of reopening, it would involve potentially breaking apart existing classes, putting new class configurations together, moving students around, both within a school and perhaps between schools, and could be really, really disruptive. I've said before that if you don't get the right 60% or 60% or more people that are willing to do that, the disruption it could cause might be greater than the impacts of just staying in distance learning, which is a challenge. And believe me, if we could find a logistically feasible way to reopen our schools, I would love to do that. I'd do it tomorrow if we could, but these are real hurdles. So then again, if it comes back to the parent interest, when we send out these surveys before, we didn't have the majority of our parents indicating that they wanted to send their kids back. Now, those conditions were different. So we're getting into a place now where we have case rates falling, more people having access to vaccine. So the question is, when is the right time to send that survey out? And I've been waiting to make sure that I have all the information I need to have to give to our parents to send it out. And I was hoping that the governor's plan would be released now, so I could say, we've got the governor's plan, here's what it looks like, no hurdles in that plan for us to continue down this road. And I would be able to say, all right, we'll send our survey out and at the end of this week. But here's the thing, again, it's not worthwhile me doing that, I don't think, if what the state approves dramatically changes how we can reopen. So I think we owe it to our parents and our community to know what it is they'd be reopening into before I ask you if you want to come back. So once we have that state plan and we can evaluate it and figure out what hurdles now we have to do, it wouldn't shock me if the state came up with a new colored system. Right now it's purple, red, orange, yellow. They could. The governor said before he wants to follow the federal government. Well, if you look at the federal government plan, they have a new color system now for reopening that doesn't match ours at all. So if they change that and reshuffle everything, districts that are already starting to move forward with plans are probably going to have to change their plans. Districts that are open, like Piedmont, for example, they may have to reevaluate how they're open. So again, I think before we send out the survey to parents, which is our next step in the process, I need to be able to share with you what it is that you would be coming back into. So once we get that information, then we move into the next phase, which is that challenging phase, which is how do we make adjustments in staffing? How do we rearrange classes? How can we do that in a way that makes sense and would allow for at least the early elementary grades to reopen in some kind of practicable way? Won't know that until I get that information back from the parents, which again, I'm kind of waiting for the governance plan on that. And then once that's the biggest hurdle, that first area under March, that if that is easily or reasonably doable, then we could start to go through those other steps. And if everything fell perfectly in place, you'd be looking at potentially for early elementary grades, some type of opening at the end of March, beginning of April, if everything goes well. That's the potential tentative possible timeline. Again, I can't say right now whether this is going to work or not. I just don't know. Too many variables that we don't know, but I'm hoping that we'll know that these final variables will be taken out of the mix. And I was hoping I'd have that information for you today. I don't. Maybe this week. I know the governor is he's been over promising and under delivering in this area. And, he's got to make sure he's got to wrestle the legislature to get everybody to reach agreement. So that's not easy. I get that. But this is like a best case scenario timeline that could be possible if everything goes well. We've shifted it already 3-4 times, and it may shift again. One of the things that we're always mindful of is in terms of disruption, is, at what point is it not worth going through this process? And I have a feeling that board meeting in March is where, we may be asking the board to commit to one thing or another if we get all the information we need. So that's kind of where I'm circling on that, and we'll know a lot more in the next couple of weeks. I hope so. I hope, especially as we get that survey out and find out where our community is. I mean, if we had 80% of our parents that said they want to come back, teachers have access to vaccines and they're getting vaccinated, hey, all of a sudden things look very different. So I don't know. We'll know more of that soon. All right. So I've talked about these things. Basically, these are the variables that really could affect things. Governor's plan, local health conditions. It seems like things are going great. If there was some other kind of a surge or a spike that could say, it doesn't seem like we're heading in that way. But Dr. Moss, when he spoke with us last week, said that he expects that there will be fluctuations in that case rate as things ebb and flow as they have throughout the area, meaning spikes of some sort. He expects to see them. How bad they are, I think could depend a lot on how quickly we get vaccinated. All right, so those are the variables I already talked about. And with that, I will turn it back to President Chima here, and we can
Okay,
discussion.
thank you so much for the comprehensive report and update about this continuously changing the circumstances, and we don't know. So I would like to ask my fellow board members if they have any concerns, questions, or anything to add, comment, please raise your hand. So I do see a raised hand from member Leslie Shearer. Go ahead, please. You are muted. You are muted.
Sorry. Thanks very much for the very comprehensive update. A couple things to note. One of the things that I don't think was mentioned, but I was reminded today by our CSEA President Robin Hernandez on our Facebook page that the URL to go to, the website address to go to register is myturn.ca.gov. So that's the URL that you want to go to. And I've heard a lot of people who went there, tried it the first time, didn't get it. And then the people who get it are the ones that keep trying. So if at first you don't get it, just keep trying. And like I said, I think the success that I've heard is from people who kept trying. And I know actually I've seen several New Haven teachers be successful with that. So it's promising. Second thing is we took a look at all the different return to school options, one being in person, one being staying virtual, another with some type of hybrid. One of the modes that has not been talked about that I would like to kind of just state for the record is one that I think could be challenging, but I want to at least mention it. And I've heard things like I've heard that it's generally pretty pessimistic that it could happen. But I would like to leave the door open for something called simultaneous learning. It's something that has been talked about quite a bit. There's a variety of different points of view on it, but I did want for the staff to continue keeping that on the table as an option. What this is this is the ability for a teacher to run a class in the classroom with people both in the classroom as well as online at the same time. I think that there could be some logistical challenges there, but there's something that I definitely think we should continue to at least acknowledge that it exists and figure out if what the obstacles are for implementation, and to see if we can address those and see if there's a way that there's a path forward. Like I said, that's one board member's opinion, and I'm open to hearing. The other 4 board members will have their points of view on it, but I think that I'd like to at least kind of state that. Other than that, thank you, Dr. Thompson, for the very comprehensive update, and that's all I had to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nishihira, for your comments. I do see raised hand from Member Michael Gonzalez. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I first want to start off and commend Dr. Thompson. I know it's a lot of hoops you've been jumping through, very stressful, a lot of sleepless nights. They keep changing it up on you, and you and I have gone back and forth with opening up schools, returning. So I appreciate great dialogue, and we actually talked about simultaneously learning going on. And we'll talk about that later, but I just want to state for the public, though, that the reason why we're in virtual mode, virtual learning, is not because of teachers union, it's because we're in a global pandemic. That's the reason why, and it's a safety issue. I know there's a lot of politics going out there. I am in Hayward, and we decided not to, I'm a 3rd grade teacher in Hayward, and we decided not to return for the rest of the school year. And it's a safety issue. If it saves one life, one parent, it is worth closing the schools and being on virtual mode. I know we talk about learning loss, we talk about social and emotional well-being, but if they're not present, they do not return because of illness. They're no longer with us. We cannot catch them up, or we cannot help them. So that's important. Vaccinations, they're coming out, they're rolling out. I tried today. I'm going to keep trying. My sister is a teacher in San Jose. She just excited. She has an appointment on Thursday at Oakland Coliseum. So it's happening. And so I'll just go ahead and end it there. I'd like to hear from other board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for your thoughts. Next, I see Member Melissa Schwinn-Mallory. Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you, President Chima. Thank you first, Dr. Thompson, for your update. Very informative. And thank you for the suggestions from Member Nishihira and Gonzalez about simultaneous learning. I actually experienced this as a student recently. In the past couple of years, I went to CSU East Bay and did some continuing education classes. And they have every room set up where students can attend in person and through online, through, I can't remember the name. I think it's called Blackboard or something like that, at the same time. And so, I don't know what kind of facilities we have for that kind of setup, but, it involved built-in microphones and speakers in the classrooms and computers in every classroom, and et cetera. So I would also encourage the staff to look into that. What would it take for us to be able to do that, the simultaneous learning? I also want to caution that I really want us to be careful and safe, make sure that all of our staff, our teachers and our other staff and our students and their families remain safe no matter what plan that we choose. Because the worst thing that I could, imagine is that, someone's grandparent or aunt or uncle or parent passes away because the school was a source of coronavirus spreading in our community. So, you know, all of these changing regulations and rules are one thing, but above all, we do need to consider everyone's health and making sure that we're not the reason that someone gets the virus and passes away. And I am very concerned about the mental health of our students. I'm very concerned about the learning loss. But I want to speak to the community and say that I don't believe that bringing back classes is going to magically fix all of those problems. It's going to take us years to recover from the past year. And I just wanted to mention that, you know, bringing back schools is a goal, but it is not going to be the remedy for all of our problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Linda Canlis.
Yes, I would like to thank the superintendent for the comprehensive presentation. Thank you for keeping the community updated. I'd also like to thank Mr. Nishihara for sharing that information, and Trustee Gonzalez and Ms. Melissa for the concerns that you were sharing. I'm not going to repeat them. Everything was very well said. My question at this point is, should we take a survey? This is for the superintendent. Should we survey the parents? Should we include this question in one of the options that are possibility? And the other question is, do we have the capacity, should they want to do that, and the timeline to be able to do something like that within the tier that you shared, Mr. Thompson?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Linda Canlis.
Can I ask John to?
Yes,
give
yes,
a-
I'm going to
Thanks.
do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, Dr. Thompson, yes, if you can share after you have heard from the fellow board members that do we have the capacity, or what is your take on this whole thing, simultaneous learning, and how it is different than the synchronous learning? So if you can please explain. Thank you.
Sure, and I thought Trustee Nishihara did a nice job of explaining how, and actually Trustee Shin Mallory as well, kind of explaining how it works in terms of you're both, you know, you can be virtual or in the classroom getting the same. They, you know, the term that's kicked around are, you have roomers and Zoomers, right? So you have kids that are in the room and kids that are on Zoom. That's one of the models, the Elk Grove models, to have Zoomers in the room and Zoomers at home. So everyone's in Zoom, but some are in person and some are at home, in the room and at home, but all on Zoom. And that's what Elk Grove is doing. So right now, from a technological perspective, we would have the capacity to do the dual roomer ones where you have, you know, everyone would be in the room on Zoom and everyone would be at home on Zoom. We actually spent time, as you know, we've been partnering with our bargaining unit CSCA on a more of an as needed basis. And because there's so much going on related to instruction, we've been having weekly meetings with our NHTA advisory council. And we looked into this jointly through the fall months, where we were starting to revisit our hybrid schedules. And I know that our teachers were communicating with the teachers up in Napa, where they do the full roomer Zoomer model. And in Napa, they have the large interactive whiteboards, which we were actually pursuing. They also have a camera system where they have it set up where you have a camera on the roomers, so the Zoomers at home get it's a more of a whole classroom fill, even though you're split like that. We wouldn't be able to get that kind of technology in place. There are concerns though too, to be fair, that I think particularly at that time, the teachers in Napa were feeling like there was a whole added burden that goes with simultaneous instruction that is above and beyond what you would normally do in either a synchronous kind of environment or in an in-person environment. And the feeling at that time was that we didn't have the capacity to account for that added burden that's placed on the teachers trying to manage the roomers and the Zoomers, or in regardless of whether in a fully Zoom format or not. So it's something we can revisit, but at that time, the advisory council was not recommending moving forward in that direction. And then, of course, the shutdown happened again in December, and the COVID got worse, and that just kind of killed all of that. But it's something that I love the idea of it, and I'm very intrigued by it. And as it's something that I think, that post-COVID even has some potential to serve certain populations of students that, and if we did it right, and I know we could, and everything was set up right, it could provide another alternative for both teachers and students to provide a way to meet students where they are with their instruction. In terms of where we're at now for reopening, something that I can revisit I can bring it up with our advisory council, and we can take a look at how that maybe things have changed, and both in terms of how we could proceed forward with that. So anyway, long story short, I'll put it on our advisory council meeting to talk about where we're at and how that might play a role both now and then moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So this was just the information item, and there is no vote. So we are moving to the next agenda item 9.1, items from the board and the superintendent. Any volunteers to raise your hand if you want to share something? Any board members? Okay, I do see member Leslie Shearer. Go ahead, please.
Sorry about that. All right. Most of my comments were actually covered in that last item, so that's great. What I will say is I've been getting inspired specifically around goals 2, 4, and 5, and there is an opportunity to, I believe, start putting together community gardens at our sites. Now, I know that we have in the past had gardens that were kind of behind a cyclone fence, and I'm wondering if there is an opportunity, and I can give a little bit more of a conversation about it maybe a little bit later. But I just wanted the board to start thinking about how we might be able to use our facilities. So for example, we all know that we have facilities in New Haven that are currently underutilized. We also know that there are people who are actually really hungry, and we have a lot of really big space. There's a lot of, at least as far as I could tell, there seems to be a fair amount of people that I know that are actually really interested in gardening. It's actually become kind of a COVID thing that people are now starting to rediscover gardens and have COVID gardens. The thing that I would think about, and obviously we'll have to play it by ear in terms of in terms of the current COVID situation. So might not be able to do it while we are in our current situation. But one of the things that I would really be interested in is building communities, with gardening kind of at the center. Now, I'm not talking about having a district and or a staff funded, we don't need another thing for our staff to be able to do. All I'm talking about is maybe creating a space where the community can come together and work together, growing things. So I do have a couple ideas, but I just wanted to place it as something to think about, because I think it lines up to our goals 2, goals 4, and goals 5. So we'll take it a little bit offline, and maybe we can at some point in upcoming board meetings, we can maybe start talking about this a little bit more substantially. But I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I think it'd be a really great idea. So that's all I have for that. I had a couple other things, but they were already taken care of in item 8. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member would like to share their thoughts? I don't see any hands up. So thank you, Member Nishira, for bringing that neighborhood gardening kind of plots to have some kind of activity in our schools. As you might remember that from my previous conversations, I think the besides gardening, we need to give access of our facilities, grounds, and sports fields to our community. So in the past couple of weeks or so, community members, they have been calling me they have seen the locked gates at our fences, the newly installed fences, the IBC, and I have gotten some calls from the Pioneer Elementary School as well. So like I've said, so we need to, that's also part of building the community. The community feels they're proud of their facilities and they would like to, especially now COVID, people, they cannot go to outside where, so in their neighborhood parks, maybe they can play and enjoy the outdoors. So, and Dr. Thompson has been very responsive to that. We have been going back and forth. So we will find out some kind of plan if community members, they find that our facility is locked and what they need to do at that point. So other thing is I do see member Linda Canlis-Ham. So second thing I have talked to our superintendent that in June for the graduation part, make sure that we have a plan in place. And then this time I know none of us board members were able to participate last year. So this year, make sure that there is a provision, the board members, for how long they can participate, come out, it's up to them, but give them the option to participate, be a part of the graduation ceremony. So I have had that conversation with Dr. Thompson. So before I do see two hands. So member Linda Canlis, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to apologize when Mr. Nishihara was talking about gardening. We were smiling because we have a board and a staff here. We're full of gardeners here in this district. We love to garden. So that's just like, this is a great idea. But the business side of me is asking, okay, this is great. I'd like to see people there. I'd like to use our spaces and be productive. But the question in my mind is going, is there a liability or what are the rules for an activity that is not led by district personnel, or are there any rules? So it posed a lot of question from the business side, but my heart is saying, yeah, that's great. Let's do it. I mean, it's a great way of putting the community together and provide fresh, wonderful food for not only our kids, but the community. So my question, I guess, for our staff is, what are the rules and liability if we did do something like that?
Thank you, member Canlis, for bringing that up. I do see Dr. Thompson's hand up, so he's ready to give us share his thoughts about it. But I do remember that we do have, from the city side, we do have some plots in the city, which city provides for the members of the community, and in case they want to come for gardening. But I don't know, I think there are 4 or 5 spaces in the parks in the city. They do provide some plots to the community. Okay, Dr. Thompson.
Actually, I'd like to first see if it's okay if our student board member, I don't know if you have, it's been a little while. It's great to see you back.
Yeah.
Is it okay if she gives an update first on what's happening at Logan? I'd love to hear.
Sure.
Okay, so my student update. Yes, it's very nice to see everyone. Sorry for my absence. So first off, I would like to start talking about Colt Buddy. So I've mentioned it in previous meetings before, especially during the construction phase. But I'd just like to say we're on our second session. It's going pretty well. Just for reference, there's a lot more like elementary kid signups than we have leaders. So recently we've been scrambling to get more high school leaders. I'm also a leader, and I can tell you that the experience is really great. I can tell that the kids are doing wonderful. There's only a few like nicks and knacks that ASB has to fix, but it's mainly things about communication of like Zoom links and stuff like that. As for leadership, our class shirts are now out and ready and available. We did a few activities like the talent show. We we held a movie night for Valentine's Day like last Friday. And now we're preparing for a multicultural fair. And we're also discussing a potential skit. It was approved that we could film on site, but not a lot of the class cabs are comfortable with that. So it might actually just be the seniors because we kind of need something to end our year off. But yeah, that's it. I hope everyone is safe and healthy.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for your updates. I think now your time, Dr. Thompson.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm really glad to hear that Cold Buddies is up and running. I was wondering about that. So thanks for that update. I'd also like to thank one of our parents, Lily Turner, she doesn't have students in her district anymore, but she will always be one of our parents. She's the chair of the D3A, and she personally went out and purchased a fairly significant chunk of PPE masks that fit our smaller student faces and donated them to the district. And she, it just kind of I think is an example of, I've only known Lily now for a year and a half or so, but she's, this I think is very characteristic of who she is as a person from what I can see, very giving. And I just want to give her a big shout out for her continued dedication to the district and her latest donation as well. So thank you, Lily. Other bits of good news, we have a variety of different construction related projects that are finishing up or in different stages right now. I just thought I'd give you a very quick update. Searles is moving along. They're the new classroom building there and the exterior work. Pioneer is basically done. And I think President Chima, I think we have that fencing, finally the fencing issue around the playground finally worked out where it's not going to be an issue. I'm fingers crossed on that. The Cesar Chavez is their future ready classroom is, the walls are down, and they are building that out. It's going to be a beautiful space. We have fencing in a variety of places, including Pioneer Logan, IVCMS, and that's IVCMS. One of the things that as we continue to secure the perimeters of our schools, we are going to have those continued access issues, but the intent is not at all to limit access to our facilities that have always been open for the public during non-school hours. The intent is to be able to secure them during school hours. So I just checked at IVCMS, and that the gate that has the sign on it that says open during non-school hours, we're going to leave it open until we return for in-person instruction. But it's shut, it's unlocked. So if anybody wonders and you're hearing, that gate should be open 24 hours a day right now until we go back into school, at which time it'll be just shut locked during school hours. So I think we have that one worked out too. And finally, we are, as we have the local control accountability plan. And last year we got a waiver on it because of, we just had to do an addendum, which didn't feel much like an addendum for Scott or Mr. Pisani. I think that was a lot of work. But this year we're required to submit a new 3-year plan. So it's a little bit different than in years past because we already have our 3-year strategic action plan in place. And that will be the foundation for our LCAP moving forward. So what we're doing is, Scott, Mr. Pisani has put together a nice presentation that we can take to our different stakeholder groups to show them, give a little bit of an update about the LCAP process and what it is, and then show how our strategic plan is going to be anchoring that document, and then providing all of our stakeholder groups to give feedback. But it's for a number of reasons. Obviously we can't hold big community forums like we have in the past, so it'll be targeted groups. We're putting together a video segments that will be part of this, so our site principals can share it with their ELACs, and we can hit all of our different stakeholder groups. So that's coming. And then you'll get in June at the 2 board meetings the new 3-year LCAP, which will be aligned with our strategic plan, but also help us really kind of, now that we're a year in, share with you what we've accomplished and where this work that will flow through the LCAP as well as it relates to the strategic plan is outlined. So all of that's coming up, and that is it for me.
Thank you. So I'm assuming that the gardening, mention of the gardening project, you will update us about the, possible, if we can pursue or not, maybe in the future meeting or maybe in the BCE or something like that.
Yeah, why don't we, whoops, I think that would be a good, why don't we talk about that in consensus? Trustee Nishihira, if you want to bring it up there, we can come up with a game plan for that. There certainly are, as you pointed out, President Chima, that there are community models for what that could look like. So why don't we bring it up there and talk about how that might play out?
Sure. So I think there is a consensus to bring, if there are existing models in some of the school districts, if we can have, so bring the information in the future meeting and any of the future meetings. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Next, it's agenda item number 10.1, report from the Budget and Finance Committee. Is there any update?
Our next meeting is on the 22nd.
So nothing right now. Okay,
Nothing.
10.2, report from the Communications and Advocacy Committee. So any updates from Lance or Michael?
Member Schwinn Mallory, would you like to take the update since I missed most of the last meeting?
Sure. So what we came up with is that we've been meeting for a while since before I became a trustee. So in the meeting, we did talk about what the next steps would be to move forward with our communication and advocacy plan, with the project where we are updating our branding, including our logo. And the consensus was that we should start speaking with vendors who are professionals to update the logo and the branding, and to start getting a feel for what different vendors offer and what their portfolios look like, to see possibly to pick somebody to go forward to assist us with the rebranding of our logos and our whole packet, our fonts and our color scheme and everything. This would of course include streamlining our websites from different school sites as well as district website, and would include, training and templates for staff and everyone to use going in the future. So that's where we are right now, is we're just seeing which vendors are out there, starting to talk to them, and so forth. Do you have anything to add, Lance?
No. Just that the next meeting is February 25th at 4:30.
Yes.
That was a good summary.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything to add from the staff for this report?
I would just add that we had our first meeting with a potential vendor, and that was pretty good. So it certainly reaffirmed for me that there are groups out there that could really, really help us. And I think ultimately, in a fairly cost-effective way, we'll see. They owe us a proposal that could really catapult this work forward. Made me realize that there are professionals. Lance, you're a professional. Sorry, Trustee Nishihira, you're a professional at this. But for me, seeing the products of what really professionals can do makes me realize that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah. So since the protocol has been, the subcommittee will bring their recommendations to the full board to move forward. So if you have, it seems like you guys already have some communication with some vendor. So if you can bring that information to the full board in the next meeting, so that we can see what they're presenting or what kind of proposal they have, we will appreciate that. Thank you. So agenda item number 10.3, this is the report from the other committees, like I serve on the Mission Valley ROP, and member panelists, they serve on the other committees relating to our board. So this is the time to update. I do see already 2 hands up, one from member Linda Canlis. I will let you go first.
Yeah, see, the next AXPA meeting is in April. It will be on pathway to career in college. we will have chancellors from Las Positas to answer questions, do a presentation, and trustees will have the opportunity to ask some questions on how we could provide a smoother transition for our high school students to the colleges.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Member Lance Nishira.
Okay, so reporting from the New Haven Schools Foundation. So we are in the process right now. One of the big programs that the foundation does, aside from the scholarships, which I talked about in one of the previous meetings, one of the other big programs is around the classroom grants. And we are currently, the foundation is currently in the application period. So please get the word out to all the teachers that we are, that the foundation is currently taking classroom grant applications. To do that, it's actually a pretty minimal form. You go to the foundation website, which is nhsfoundation.org, and you go in the top navigation under project funding. There's only one item in there called the grant application form. I encourage everybody to to apply for classroom grants. The kind of the guidelines around what the grants are for are actually in the program details. But at this point, I think we do have the foundation does have a limited budget, but we do encourage it's one of the fundamental functions of the foundation. So please, I encourage the district and the teachers to take advantage of it. That is all I had from the foundation. So thank you.
Okay, I don't see any hands, but I would like to call upon Member Melissa Mallory if you want to share about we have the joint meeting with the City Council. If you like to share some of your thoughts there from that meeting.
Oh, yes, that meeting. Okay, there have been so many meetings since the last meeting.
Yes.
Yes, we met jointly with the City Council and the school board, and it was nice to see all of them again. And we discussed some of our joint land use issues, I guess, properties. There's a bunch of property that where the school and the city own property at the school site, where we are exchanging property with the city. That's the best way I can summarize that. And so we discussed the different property sites and which land the city would be giving to the district and vice versa, and updates on where that is happening. And I think that was about it. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, Dr. Thompson, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think we're just moving, other than that we're moving forward and slowly trying to get these longstanding issues resolved. Not issues, but these longstanding efforts resolved.
Projects, yeah, longstanding projects. Yeah, because there were, because Pioneer Schools, so they also shared the history of all those land transfer, because Pioneer was city's property and then we acquired it. And the Holly Community Center was sitting on school's property, our district's property. And then, so there was some change for the alignment at the Guy Manuel property, actually from the previous ongoing transfer agreements. They are continuing those projects. Hopefully they will be done, the deeds and everything, they will be finished in our this term, hopefully. So we have more clarification, and then also we discussed the joint power agreements, the JPA, to have give more access to the communities through city council or the city government and the district working together. So we also discussed those options. So also I see Member Leslie Shihira's hand up again.
Sorry, back on the foundation, I forgot to mention something. I did mention the scholarship program last meeting, but I did want to say that it looks like the applications for high school seniors for the scholarship is still going on through, looks like March 1st. So any seniors that are interested in getting scholarships, looks like the application period is still open. So encourage everybody to apply.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, I am one of the reviewers, so I don't want to take over. I know you are the in charge, so I did see that. Thank you for sharing. And from the Mission Valley ROP, we also discussed the campus opening plans, and they are as ready as we are. So once our students, they are in our facilities, in our school districts, all 3 school districts, they will be, Mission Valley ROP, they will be able to open their classrooms at the same time. So they are ready. Also, they have mentioned that the kitchen project at James Logan High School is almost ready. So we should be ready to celebrate the opening of that facility soon. Hopefully we will get the invitation. So that's the update from the Mission Valley ROP. From my side, seeing no more hands up, we are moving to the next agenda item, is the action item 11.1, which is California School Boards Association CSBA Delegate Assembly election for 2021. So may I, before we do this, may I have a motion and a second to vote for the proposed 3 candidates for the CSBA Delegate Assembly election for 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion, comment, or information? It's your time now. Please raise your hands. I don't see any hands up, so I'm glad that everyone, so there are 3 seats open and there are 3 candidates, which is good. So not much to discuss. I know Diana Parola, she has been serving in this capacity for a long time, and she has done a good job, and Dan Jones as well. So there's a new addition from Sarah Prada. We are glad that, okay, now member Melissa Schwinn-Mallory, you have some comments to make. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I do know Diane Jones and Sarah Prada, and I think that they would both be excellent people to serve on the CSBA. So
thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. I have not met Sarah Prada personally yet, so I'm glad that you know her, and she will be serving our public education, our schools. Good. So no more discussion. Roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Schwen-Mallory,
aye.
Chima.
Aye. Agenda item number 11.2, adoption of Williams complaints, policies, and procedures. May I have a motion and second to confirm that the district has adopted Williams complaint policies and procedures among their current board policies?
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, comments, questions? Raise your hands, please, if you want to. Any board members, they have anything? Seeing none, I'm glad that this is just about the policies. And in the last board meeting, we did have the actual complaint reporting to the state. So there was none. I'm glad that we are following this, updating our policies. So roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Schwen-Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Agenda item number 11.3, acceptance of 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee report and recommendations for the Dakota New Haven Adult School Campus and the Central Kitchen Warehouse Building Heldman. Please update.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Thompson. So as you know, in the summer, we engaged 3D strategies to look at our underutilized or underused facilities throughout the district. And in the fall, per direction of the board, we formed a 7-Eleven advisory committee. And that committee was charged by the board to look at that report and make a recommendation ultimately to the Board of Education. This committee had been hard at work since December. We've met a couple of times, and this item is now the recommendation for the 2 of those 9 properties listed on the report. Joining us this evening, if there are any questions, is the chair of that committee, Ms. J.P. Sahi. At this point, this item is for your acceptance, not approval. I want to make sure that's clear. It's for the governing board to accept the report on the recommendations from the 7-Eleven Advisory Committee with regards to these 2 specific properties. And like I said, joining us in case there are questions is Committee Chair J.P. Sahi.
I see a hand from member Melissa Shona-Mallory. Go ahead, please.
Yes, first I'd like to commend 7-Eleven committee. This is a lot of hard work, which these community members are putting in as volunteers, so thank you. I was reading the report and I was wondering if you could provide more information about the baseball field at the adult school. It said that there is a field there that could possibly be rented out. I live nearby and I am not sure, is this field usable? Would it need to be repaired in any way for anyone to rent it out?
Can I just interject a point of order?
Yep.
I think we're going beyond the scope of this item. I'm sorry, but this isn't. This item is limited to the report that was submitted by the 7-Eleven committee, and that is not on there. So I'm sorry, that's not something that has been agendized properly just to discuss.
So maybe in the future, Melissa, thank you so much for bringing that question though. But at this time, like previously we have said that we are just simply accepting this report. We are not moving forward with anything other than just accepting the report. So if you have any board members, they have any questions, they can ask them right now, or comments or anything. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Well, we haven't put a motion.
Thank you. I need a motion.
Oh, I thought we did. No?
No. So
Okay,
moved.
so yeah, okay. May I have a motion and a second to accept the report and recommendations?
Point of order,
Sure, go ahead.
committees don't need a second.
It's an action item.
No, because this is an action item, so we need to have a,
I can
we
clarify.
have to
if you'd like.
move and second. Do you want to say something, Dr.
No,
Thompson?
that's correct. It's the committee. This is accepting the report from the committee, which is an action item requiring a motion and a second.
Are you clear, member Michael Gonzalez? Okay, thank you. So let me say it. May I have a motion and a second to accept the report and recommendations from the 7-Eleven District Advisory Committee for the Dakota New Haven Adult School Campus and the Central Kitchen Warehouse Building?
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Schwen-Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. So next is action item number 11.4, resolution number 027-2021, award bid for the Alvarado Elementary School HVAC and controls project. So before I allow Ms. Heldman to move forward, so may I have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 027-2021, award bid for the Alvarado Elementary School HVAC and controls project, and
So
approve a
moved.
contract with Sisarco Incorporate. Okay,
So
yes,
moved.
second, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion and please, Ms. Haldeman, if you can share some more information about this action item?
Of course. So we conducted the same process that we would do for competitive bidding in accordance to public contract code. And part of that process actually is to call out interests to walk the project, no different than when before we start construction, before we start a bidding process. We do invite those who may want to bid and come out and take a look at the site and walk it. So in this case, like I said, it's we have procedures that we follow that are in accordance to public contract code. We had one bidder for this project and we are awarding it to that bidder. And this is for a pilot of the control system that we use for all of our HVAC units. Now, this is one piece to a larger project that the district had been in more ways than one since last summer working on in terms of addressing the older HVAC systems in our district. So this particular item before you, which is 11.4, is a pilot program for the controls that we use for all of our HVAC systems throughout the district.
So if you can share a little bit more what after this project is finished, what will be the product and how what we will accomplish, as if I have to explain it to some community member, what will be schools will accomplish from this project? Sure.
This would allow us to be able to control all of our individual systems throughout the district on a wireless mode. And that has nothing to do with actually updating our systems. Most of our systems are aging. A lot of them are 40 to 50 years old. So this is piloting the type of control that we would be using. I also see in our group, our facilities director, in case there are additional technical questions that he can chime in if I may say so.
Okay, I do see Mr. David Estrada in the meeting. So my understanding after reading this is that, like you have said, that our HVAC systems, they are old. So I was just wondering why we are piloting this project at this time, since our systems, they are old. Will they talk to each other with the new technology? It's my understanding, being remote or by using this with a remote control. Can you please share a little bit more?
Yes,
David.
good evening, Board President Shima, board member, Superintendent Thompson. Yes, so this project started a little over 2 years ago because we were outdated systems. Moreover, we have an allergen control system that's been working for the past 15 years. Parts are no longer made and they're starting to fade out. We're actually trying to buy surplus parts to keep it going, so we can keep it going for a number of years, but we're at the end of it. So part of this, we did a analysis and determined that we actually got a RP ahead of this where we went out for an energy management system and the pricing came out about 15–20% higher than we anticipated. We backed up and decided, well, what can we do in order to accommodate the maximum amount of HVAC units and controls? We want to start a pilot program. This pilot program will allow us not to pull new wires, but to go wirelessly. It's one of the most updated systems, but because it's new, let's say over the last 5 years, we want to test it on a single site. Most important here is that we're going to be getting the new HVAC units that we're starting to pull in. We want to update those as well. So we figure for a period about, once we've installed it, about 3 months, we'll be able to ascertain a wireless system works fine just as a hardwired. Once we go beyond that, we'll go a district-wide project to start to replace it immediately for the balance of the system. So it's a timely thing to do it right now, where we want to dot our I's, cross our T's, and make sure that Wi-Fi system, which there's several districts using it already, we want to try it in our district to confirm that in fact it works to our needs.
And I just,
go ahead.
David, I just want to add to, in terms of the question, that would this be talking to the system once we change?
I'm sorry.
The group that need to be changed, that are in desperate need to be changed? And the answer is yes. This is simply the controls for those systems. So simultaneous or in parallel to this would be actually looking into upgrading the oldest systems HVAC system throughout the district. Now, the bond measure M allows money for deferred maintenance, as you know. There's a line item designated for deferred maintenance. And in terms of replacing the oldest system for the audit that was done by the district a few years ago, that is actually where that project's going to be funded. So this is just testing a new technology in terms of the control system. But we also would be in parallel looking at our systems themselves and look at the oldest of those that would need to be replaced in the coming year.
Okay. So how long you said we will be testing it for the life of the system? I just heard from Mr. David Estrada will be like around 5 years, you said. So
we'll be testing it for 3 months in terms of the operations. We'll be able to determine then whether we'll go forward with it. But what we're looking for is that we still see in the use, our technicians have to be able to see if somebody calls them on a phone and says, look at this system. Is the fan operating? Is the heat coming on? All those we want to be able to do on an iPad. Technically, we have one person to operate all our systems, and he needs to be able to see it now immediately and be able to even turn on, turn off systems. So that's the intent. We have that ability now, but he has to go on your site now and actually look at it. The ability for him to do it across the district on a pad or other method will extremely make his time more efficient. So it's very important.
I see. So I do see you have only one bid. So I am assuming that fairly this could be a new kind of technology and not very many vendors. I would like to open up the board members if they are interested when they install this technology. You can have a facilities tour and check it out that how this work. But I do know being having too many software engineers in my home. They do this all the time, you know, even the washing machines, they will turn it on certain time in the 3 a.m. and machine will start at the time. So I think I'm understanding it. So we are doing similar thing that somebody will have control outside and they will be able to maybe run our facilities more efficiently with this system. Is that right, Mr. Estrada?
So the question again is, if you would, is this a system? So this is the Allerton system we are using currently. And it's, again, Cyclical was our earlier partner and we partnered with for our controls. It's, again, Allerton. There's certain systems out there. There's only 4 or 5 large manufacturers. 2 of them showed up to our walk. Only one of them turned in the proposal. So they're all well-known manufacturers that have been around for many years. And so we fully expect us to operate and do all the things that they're telling us it will do, but we still want to have the proof on the ground to make sure it's operating correctly.
Thank you. Please just make a note that whenever the system is installed, so I would personally like to come and see it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Swen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Agenda item number 11.5, approval of DSA inspection services agreement for the Cedar Middle School Innovation or Future Ready Classroom Project. May I have a motion and second to approve the attached DSA inspection services agreement with the John P.C. Wong for the Cedar Middle School Innovation and Future Ready Classroom Project?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, discussion from the fellow board members? Seeing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Swen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Thank you. I'm glad that they are moving forward with the so 11.6 approval of 2021 comprehensive school safety plans. Thank you so much for sending us those plans ahead of time. May I have a motion and a second to approve the 2021 comprehensive school safety plans for each school site?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, or discussion? I do see one hand from Dr. Thompson. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure the board is aware that we had to pull Logan's plan because it didn't have all the signatures from the site council. So that will come to the board on March 9th. So you're approving all of the plans except for Logan's.
Thank you. I do see one more hand. Member Linda Canlis.
Yeah, I just want to thank the principals for making time to complete this. Even though there's a template now, it is so time consuming. So thank you. I really appreciate all your sweat and staying up all night putting this together. I used to do this and I hated it. So I know what you went through. So thank you so much.
Okay, so I don't see any other new hands up. So again, thank you so much for all the staff who has been working on these plans, even though we don't have any students in our school, but we do need to follow all these protocols. So roll call, please.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Agenda item number 11.7, approval of 2021 summer school salary schedule. May I have a motion and a second to approve the 2021 summer school administration salary schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Any question, comment, or discussion? I do see member Michael Gonzalez. Please go ahead.
Through the chair to question to Derek. I noticed in the collective bargaining agreement with New Haven Administrators Association, the new salary, summer school salary, will it be, if we approve it tonight, will it fall under, be adopted into the collective bargaining agreement for 2021?
No, it's not. The administrators' book is not a collective bargaining agreement. It's just an agreement between the parties because they're not a union, but that will not be adopted because it really depends on funding and the work each year to year. So it really is not something that goes into the NHA agreement that we put together.
That's it? Okay. Okay, thank you. Now, member Melissa Schwen-Mallory.
Just for the good of transparency, I did ask Superintendent Thompson before the meeting if this was a separate item from possibly the teacher's salary schedule, and he told me that yes, this is a completely separate step. That the teacher's salaries for summer school would be considered separately.
Thank you. Seeing no more hands, roll call, please.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
No.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Abstain.
Chima.
Aye. So next agenda item is approval of unpaid student teaching field experience and practicum agreement between National University and New Haven Unified School District. May I have a motion and second to approve the unpaid student teaching field experience and practicum agreement between National University and New Haven Unified School District?
So moved.
Second.
Comment, question, discussion? Raise your hands, please. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. So next agenda item is number 12, consent agenda items or action. Since this is a consent, so let's see. Are there any items that board members would like to remove for separate votes? Okay, I see hands up from member Michael Gonzalez. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd like to pull item number 12.11 through 12.21. So that's 12.11, 12, 13, 14, all the way to 21, all those items.
Okay, hold on. 12.11 to 12.21. So do you have a question for those, or do you want to have a separate vote? Michael Gonzalez?
Discussion? And I promise to be concise. I know we got a lot of items on the agenda, so.
Sure. No. It's our meeting, so.
Just a point of order. Usually I think what we're supposed to be doing here is we're supposed to be discussing that
Yes.
in the next item. We should, if those are the only ones that are to be pulled, we should probably just accept the rest of the consent calendar and then move to the next.
I was going to do that. So may I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items from 12.1 through 12.10, and then from 12.22 to 12.28.
So moved.
Second.
There is no discussion since this is the agenda, consent agenda item. So roll call, please.
Canlis.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Nishihira.
Aye.
Schwen Mallory.
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. So now the agenda item number 11. So Michael, do you want to discuss one at a time, or do you want to discuss all at the same time?
Well, I definitely want to speak on the charter policy.
Okay.
But again, like I said, I'll be concise. Let me just start off with the kind of
12.11.
12.11, yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so so what these all have in common, you're wondering why I'm pulling them. They are California School Board Association recommendations. So let me preface this. I apologize. There's no knock to Dr. Thompson or the rest of my board colleagues. You know, I mean, I'm just challenging you. And so, yeah, I'll go ahead and the reason why. Let me start off with. Let me start off with it. That the California School Board Association is a great resource. They do incredible work. Nothing wrong with updating our policy. And they are looking out for our school board, okay? Any possible future lawsuits or anything like that. The only problem I have is the California School Board recommendations, they're not all for every school district. Did you know that the majority of the California School Board Association are 59-year-old white Republican women? Okay, so they don't have the best interests of all of the communities, you know, and particular New Haven community. And so I'm just gonna pump the brakes. I wanna push back on some of these recommendations. They should be spread out. I have a big problem with no other local school board moving these policies at this time in the month of February. I looked at past, present, in Newark, Fremont, Hayward, San Lorenzo, Oakland, and with the exception of San Leandro, they're only pushing one recommendation from the California School Board Association. So our community needs resolutions, needs policies that are directly affecting our community. So I just think that we got to do a better job with this, and they're not all time sensitive, even though they recommend a lot of policies. We do not need to take them all and pass them. We definitely need time to look them over. And I've talked with California School Board Association representatives about this. I've talked to board presidents, local board presidents. Are you doing this? So I've done my homework. I've checked into this, and I'm saying we do not need that. With that said, let me get back to 12.11. Okay, so 12.11 policy I have right here, which is charter authorization. It's our first reading. So like I said, I'm kind of going to be redundant. Let me start off by saying that not all charter schools are not bad. My sister works at a dependent charter school in San Jose, and a lot of my friends, colleagues, I work with dependent independent charters. I come from, well, I spent my last 15 years in Los Angeles, the biggest charter with the most charter schools in the nation. And so I know what I'm talking about. I've worked on public school choice where I had to compete with neighboring charter schools. And my first year of teaching, I experienced after Norm Day the wave of kids from charter schools being canceled out or pushed out because they have a learning disability, English language learners. I was also a charter organizer on the committee. So I can attest to this. I'm not just speaking randomly here. I can attest that they really did some damage with the privatization of public education. So they really affected our community. And it's not only me, it's the NAACP, the national took a stand, and they have a moratorium on charter schools due to the privatization of public schools and segregation of students. So the whole idea, I mean, I can talk on and on, but I'm going to keep it brief. The whole idea of charter schools, you know, it came in the 80s, and it came from the United Federation of Teachers, the president there. So this is, you know, it's meant to be innovative. It had good intentions, but it's the charter operators who are taking advantage of it. And I lobbied with my local assemblywoman in Sacramento on AB 1505. And so this is some of the work I've been doing. So getting back to this particular policy, this is not relevant to our district. We're not a big city, Oakland, San Jose, or Los Angeles. This policy diminishes our authority as a school board. We should not cater to potential charter petitions. Do not give them the window opportunity to infiltrate our district. We need to say no to this, despite whether it could help us or not. So I'm saying no. We should not have this. This is 12.11. That's it.
So do you want to say something to the other ones, up to 12.12 to 12.20? Because you have.
Could we address them one at a time, please?
Okay. That's good. So I do see 3 hands up. Member Linda Canlis, you are next.
Okay. I'm curious, what part of this policy specifically that you do not agree with?
I don't know. Through the chair, of course.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yes. I don't see how it's relevant to our district. Okay, is there potential charter petitions out there? Is there a group looking into our schools? Whether we don't have conversions, we don't have startups. So I don't understand how this is relevant to our district.
And we have had some in the past, and occasionally they do show up. And some of these also are based on the laws that are coming out there, and we just update what we have to make sure that we are fair to everyone.
Okay. Do you have more comments, Member Canlis?
Not to that one. I'm just curious about specifically what part of this is not going to be serving us when someone is applying for a charter school, because we have in our terms, if you remember, Ms. Chima, we've had a few applications for charter schools.
Yes. So I would not elaborate. So there are Member Leslie Shira, you are next in line to speak.
Okay. So it sounds like what Member Gonzalez is saying. it transcends 12.11, and it's more about a position about blanket, taking a slate of policy recommendations from CSBA and approving them wholesale. That sounds to be what I'm reading into. It's not any specific objections to any of these specific policies. That's what I took from it. I may be right, may be wrong. I believe, from a process standpoint, this would be an excellent topic of conversation during our governance session, to identify the proper process to address these. There are many school districts out there that have policy committees, right, who actually look at these, and as they come in, make a recommendation to see if it's locally relevant. My understanding has always been that a lot of these blanket policies are updated to ensure that we are in compliance with new specific laws. Now,
Correct.
it very well may be that that all of these do, but I think the point that Member Gonzalez is making is a good one, and I think that the board, our job as a board, is to ensure that we have a process and a structure in place, so that we give these policy recommendations the level of due diligence to ensure that they are relevant to our district. That's how I feel about what I've heard. With that, in terms of, Member Gonzalez is correct. There's no timing specific here. So there's no reason why we need to approve this tonight. We can certainly, we are certainly given a summary of all these policies ahead of time, and so there should be a place for us to have conversations about these. And from a governance standpoint, we have to figure out where that place is as we work together to figure out how we work together as a team. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Member Melissa Shona-Mallory, you are next.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of the things that Member Gonzalez has said, and appreciate Member Nishihira's suggestions. I have attended a lot of trainings with CSBA since starting as a trustee. I spent a good amount of time on calls with them, and I believe that his assertion is right. A lot of the people serving in the leadership and at these meetings are from more rural areas, from more conservative areas. They tend to be more on the conservative side. I don't think that I don't think that their recommendations really apply directly to our community and our values. So I agree that taking blanket recommendations from them just on face value is probably not the best model for our school district. Specifically in regards to this this charter school authorization policy, I agree that it does take away our power as a board to oversee any kind of charter school or possible application. And I do think that it needs more conversation, and it needs more attention than a consent item.
Thank you. Superintendent Dr. Thompson, you are the next. And also, would you please share, because there are two new trustees because this is the first reading, I see it. And then what are the options as board members we can have? Thank you.
Yeah, well, for starters, with this policy, just a reminder, this is a policy that we have currently. And so if we don't update it, it doesn't have to be tonight. It actually, you'll find that this policy, if you read through the specifics of it, it actually makes it easier for us to deny charter school applications. We currently have a policy in place already. So if you do nothing, you'll have an outdated policy. So there's that. Secondly, I can promise you with certainty that if we don't have a regular system for updating our policies, we will get into legal trouble rather quickly, and we will wish that we had, or we're going to spend a lot of money investing in getting all of our policies re-updated at once, which is, believe me, a much worse process. I've been through that multiple times. So we don't have to do it this way. And I think this is an item that we should agendize for our governance session. We can have a separate board policy committee. We can do a lot of different things. But the one thing that I'm going to push back on with the board is we have to update our policies regularly. Any district that is not doing that is going to find themselves in trouble. And that, I've been doing this long enough to know that that is something that we really should prioritize. But again, it's up to the board. They're your policies. And I think moving this and agendizing it for our governance session is probably a really good idea.
So also I would like you to share with us if we just table it, these policies tonight, so that members, they will have more time to go through it or think through it. Then what is the consequences? I mean, we can approve those in the next board meeting or the following board meeting. So if you can share that as well, before I let Member Linda Canlis speak. If you can, Dr. Thompson, share those that information with the fellow board members.
Yeah, and that's, we have our governance session coming up next week. So if we wanted to adopt a different protocol, that would be a great time to discuss that. And we could push these to the 9th. We have, we have policies that we need to update. We have 30 more in the queue, just so you know, that we should be updating. So that's fine. It just pushes everything back a little bit. But I think where we're at right now, it might make some sense to regroup as a governance team next week, figure out how we want to proceed forward, and then go from there. So we could table them till the 9th.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Member Linda Canlis.
Yeah, I have no problem tabling these for the next discussion and after the governance meeting. However, I want to remind us, these are on the consent agenda. We got the board agenda ahead of time, and if there were any questions, we need to clarify them ahead of time. That way, we don't have to hold these discussions. That way, if you wanted to pull this in for more questions, we should have told them earlier on, so they would have been pulled, and we don't have to be using time right now and discuss them on a lengthy manner so that we could clarify things in the future.
So thank you, Linda, Member Canlis. Before I allow the next board member, Melissa Shannon-Mallory, I would like to share that I know Member Gonzalez and Member Melissa Shannon-Mallory, they're new. I know they're doing their homework. They are working very hard, but I just want to let you know, being a president myself, I know we have Brown Act, we cannot talk to 3 board members, but you can, if you have not shared it with other board members, you can share it with me as a board president. So then we can have, some kind of solution, like Member Canlis has mentioned, before we have this discussion up here. That's it. Okay, thank you.
Well, no, wait, that needs to be going back to the superintendent. If there's a question about anything in the agenda, it needs to go back to the superintendent. And
Yes,
then discuss
and
it. You and the superintendent could discuss
Right.
it then.
Yes, yeah. So next, I do see on my list, Member Melissa Shannon-Mallory. Your turn.
Thank you. So first, I'd like to respond to what was said. I agree that asking questions of the superintendent ahead of time is a good idea. However, in my many Board Act Brown Act trainings that I have attended before and since becoming a trustee, they have said that these issues should be brought up in public during the meeting. There's a reason we have our meetings in public. And if we just ask the superintendent our questions behind the scenes and never bring it up during the meeting, then the public doesn't know what's going on and there's a lack of transparency. Moving on, I want to know for these CSBA recommendations, and maybe this is later in our governance session, are these being reviewed by our legal counsel, by our attorney for the school district? And do they agree that all of these recommendations of changes are required by the new legislation?
Thank you. So next in line, I see Member Michael Gonzalez again.
I don't know if Board Member Nisha Hira was in front of me or before me.
So on my list, if you have not lowered your hand, I do see member Linda Candace's hand is still up. I don't know if she wants to speak again or is it from previous? Okay. Now, Michael Gonzalez, you are the next one. And then member Leslie Shira in order, unless you want to switch it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Just trying to be polite there.
Thank you.
So I did a twofold. One of them is to challenge this board to, look at the California School Board Association's recommendations and to know that and looked at the other local school boards. Why are we the only ones adopting so many of them in this particular month? If that's the case, why is it so time sensitive? And then to actually challenge, do they fit all? Do they fit our community? Are they relevant to us? And the other thing was, I actually disagree with this policy. I know we already have policy on here, and we're already protected by AB 1505. I think this is just opening the door to charter school petitions to come rolling through. I don't think we should even entertain it though, because it gives them an opportunity to infiltrate our district. And so I would push back on that. And lastly, I asked the superintendent, when is the appropriate time to pull these? I asked him about these resolutions. So I did my due diligence. We got the agenda on Friday and I've read through it. So maybe we should get in ahead of time, a little sooner with these resolutions or policy.
Okay, thank you. Member Leslie Shira.
Yeah, I wanted to reply to Member Canless's point. And Member Canless mentioned that, there's opportunity for us to ask questions. But I believe the way that I heard, or that the board's role is to, when we get the agenda packet on Friday or Thursday, whenever we get it, to then ask questions. But I think that if I understand Member Gonzalez correctly, it's less to do with any individual policy, although he has cited that policy 0420.4 is one that he has reservations about. But I don't think that I don't think that it's in response to any of these particular policies. That's why I recommended that we talk about it in a governance session, because we need, we need to have policies that are updated. And I think that's the part that the superintendent is talking about. We already have a policy. Policy 0420.4 already exists. And if we don't do anything, we'll just have an out-of-date policy that's actually out of date with specific pieces of education code. That's how I've taken it. So I guess my point really here is that this is a process issue. And if it's a process issue rather than a specific policy issue, then we should have a mechanism in place for us to be able to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I see Melissa, member Melissa Shannon-Mallory's hand up again. Would you like to speak again, Melissa? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I just wanted to say that I feel that maybe we should table these until we've had our governance session. And I do believe that the charter school policies, which are this item and the next item in particular, do warrant further inspection and further discussion. And so I think the best thing to do would be to table them and then have more discussion.
So I am hearing that we can, so Michael, since you brought those points up, are you asking?
Second, yes.
Yeah, are you asking to, no, I'm asking that how many, all of the items you have mentioned, you want to table all of those? So then I will hold the board that if a board wants to table all of those policies, then we can bring them back after our governance session. Is that okay with you?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so may I have a motion and a second to table agenda item numbers 12.11 to 12.21. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Do you have discussion? Can I have a question?
Yeah, I mean, we had the discussion, but you can have discussion
Right.
again. Sure.
Is there a timeline for these, or are they okay for to approve at a later date? Is there a timeline?
Dr. Thompson previously mentioned, you can please share that information again.
Yeah, this was just the first reading of them, so we're okay. We can bring them back in March. So we're okay for now.
Okay.
There's nothing that if we don't update in this moment, that's going to cause a problem.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table. Roll call, please.
Canlis,
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Nishihira,
Aye.
Swen Mallory,
Aye.
Chima.
Aye. Thank you. So next agenda item, discussion of actions on items removed from the consent. So we don't have anything. We have already made the action to table them. And the next agenda item is the governance review. So this is the item where we can assess ourselves that how did we do in this board meeting and how we can improve ourselves. So if you want to share any thoughts, you can share it now. You can raise your hands. Oh, I do see. Okay, Member Lance Nishihira.
Okay, so on item 11.4, really all we needed was a motion and a second, and it did not appear as if any board member had any specific questions. And at that time, you invited staff to comment on it, even though it wasn't necessarily clear that the specific board members had questions. And so so I'm just wondering if we could have been more efficient by just running the process of raising the motion, getting a second, asking for discussion, and then if there were no discussion, just proceeding with the roll call. Unless, of course, you had specific questions, but it seemed like it was open for a conversation that maybe the board didn't want to have. But that's just a piece of feedback there.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. But I do see there is a dollar amount attached to it and it's an action item. So I could have done it ahead of time. I admit that. But for the benefit of the public, that where we are spending our money. So I asked those questions. But your point is well taken. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Lance, are you done? Your hand is still up.
Sorry about that.
Okay, Member Linda Canlis.
Yeah, I just want us to clarify our process regarding consent agendas that are being put there so that we could use our time more efficiently. And I think we did say that we're going to talk about this at governance, but somebody has to communicate that with our facilitator.
Can you clarify a little bit more? I did not, what you're trying to achieve by this? Because this is consent agenda.
I'm trying to make sure that we all are on the same page regarding what are the procedures if we have questions regarding what's in the consent agenda.
Yeah, I think through our good discussion today, it came to our attention that Member Michael Gonzalez, he did whatever he could. He did talk to the superintendent and then he reviewed the policies. So I think this was the right forum to do what he did. So I don't see anything wrong. And even though it says consent agenda item, I know they are regular items, but at the same time, it's also an action item. So when it's an action item, it's members, they are free to, discuss whatever they feel like about those policies if they don't agree with those policies.
So shouldn't action items be in the action items and consent items in the consent items?
Yeah, if I don't see, Dr. Thompson, would you like to say something about this regarding Linda's comment?
And I think Trustee Nishihira is spot on that this is a process issue more than a specific other than perhaps the one charter school one. So for example, when Trustee Gonzalez and I talked, it was about the process. How do I remove an item? I didn't know that there were specific issues with any of the items, which is fine. But what we try to do though is keep the simple things simple, right? So anything that's in the consent agenda is normally, there are items that when the president and I are reviewing the agenda, we look at it and say, all right, is there anything controversial here? Is there anything that's new? Is there anything that would warrant, that we can anticipate would warrant a separate discussion? For example, if we knew the charter school policy was a point of contention, we would have moved that policy into the action items and kept the consent items as they are. Again, right. The purpose of consent is to keep the simple things simple. Things that are routine, things that are normal, things that are renewals, those go in consent. Anything that where we might want to have a public discussion about it really should be in action. Now, occasionally there are items that slip through that, that for one reason or another, or something comes up and a board member wants to pull it and remove and discuss it. That's what that mechanism is for in the consent item. But it's not the pulling things off of the consent agenda. If that's happening regularly and routinely, then we're not setting the consent agenda up right. Then those should be action items. Again, this is something that I think would be a good discussion at our governance session next Tuesday.
Thank you. That was my question.
Thank you. Member Melissa Schoen-Mallory, you have your hand up.
Thank you. You know what? I think that my item should be on 15.1 because it requires something from staff. So
I see.
I'll just wait.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So there is no more comments in the 14.1, and now we're on agenda item number 15.1, board member requests of staff. Now you can raise your hand. I think and then you should have raised at this time, but it's all right. So I do see two raised hands. Member Lance Nishihira is first. Go ahead.
As we had mentioned during my item from the board, we talked about community gardens. I think one thing that would be helpful is I would request staff to identify what the process is to do that, what some considerations are regarding liability, as well as maybe any operational challenges we might have, or any obstacles that we need to be able to consider that would prevent us from opening up at least patches of our sites to the community for gardening types of purposes. So let me know, staff, if there's any if there's any lack of clarity there in the request.
So thank you so much for your request. I do remember when my sons, they were at the Saros Elementary, we used to participate in the community garden program. But I would like to ask Dr. Thompson about this. What is the reasonable expectation if board moves forward to request that kind of information from you? What is the timeline you think that you will be able to compile the information and bring it back to the board?
Yeah, this is one where you would turn over to our legal counsel, because you are all correct that when we open up our site for community use like that, there are significant liability issues that we would want to make sure that we've addressed. So this is one that, quite frankly, I'm going to just call our attorney and say, hey, give us a breakdown on what it would take to allow the community to use our facilities in this manner, and that's what we would do. So I'll know more once I hear back from legal counsel on that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And in case you have, or Member Nishihira, if you have some knowledge of some other school district, they are following this kind of practice, then you can share that information as well. I do remember when I talked about my sons at Saros Elementary, that was with the teacher, and that teacher used to volunteer his time maybe on the weekends and the after school, and that's how that happened. So at this time, only Dr. Thompson will present us our legal kind of, what entails. So that's it. So
do we have consensus? Just want to make sure.
Do we have 3 board members? Just please raise your hand if you are okay with that, Dr. Thompson. inquiring about the legal aspects of this move. Okay, I see 3 hands up, so go ahead, please, Dr. Thompson. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Melissa Mallory.
Thank you. I actually have 2 items, so I don't know if I should do them one at a time so we can see if we have consensus.
One at a time, please.
So the first one is more of a process and information item, which is that when we had 2 action items tonight where we had a singular bid, right? One bid that we were approving. And for me as a board member, I would feel more comfortable, approving these contracts if I had a little more information. And I mentioned this to Superintendent Thompson earlier today, that, just adding 2 sentences like, we put out, an RFP or whatever, and we got, X number of bids, and we picked this particular vendor because XYZ, because, they have the most experience, or we've worked with them in the past, we have a good working relationship, their pricing was within market rate value, that kind of information. And on top of that, I believe I would like that on personnel matters as well, to know, when we approve like a principal, for example, to know how many people applied, what was the process like for the interviews, and why this person was chosen, what were their strengths, what do they bring that other candidates did not, just to make me feel more comfortable as I'm voting, that I have the information necessary to make my decision. So that's my first.
Yeah. You have more, or that's it?
I have another item, but from what I understand, we have to reach consensus. So
I see. So from my previous experience, I can share it with you. So I have been asking to. So previously, we as a board, we have asked staff to BCC us all the resumes received for that position, so that we can have some sense of that who is, have what kind of qualification. So in the closed door, it's not public, it's in the closed door session. We have requested, so they have been sharing it in the past, resumes from all those candidates. That was, I remember that. So other, the bid process you have mentioned. Also, myself and member Nishihira, I remember he has asked the same question in the past, that what is the criteria so that we pick certain firm or contractor or consultant, that how do we decide that? I know in this case, in one of them, there was only one bid, but I think it's more beneficial if we educate the new board members as well as the public, that's how we make our decisions. So I think that's what you're asking for, right?
Yes.
Alexa? So before we say something else, I want to give opportunity to other members to share their thoughts. Member Michael Gonzalez.
This is on a different topic though. That's fine.
Go ahead.
All right.
Staff is taking notes, right?
Yeah, so I'm in favor of the NHTA waiver on testing. I can't tell you the problems with standardized testing, one size fits all. It is ruining public education, the testing frenzy. During my time, LA Times put out every teacher's test score there and labeled them ineffective, effective, based on test scores. And somebody that my colleagues knew real close, he was a master teacher, Rigoberto Ruelas, was labeled ineffective, and an administrator went after him. Anyways, he ended up committing suicide because of this. And so This is not the time with the high anxiety, social, emotional well-being of our students. They don't need that pressure. How authentic are those results? And so this is just a really good time for us to get behind that and get behind our community on this. So thank you.
So any board members, before we open up a new topic, they would like to share their thoughts. I know NHTA, they sent that resolution to all of us, I believe. Right, Dr. Thompson? I received it, I know that.
A quick time out here, folks. We're piling on without stopping. If we want to get this done, I got to be clear on what exactly it is that we're doing. And
okay, so
we
go
already
ahead.
have,
Go ahead.
Melissa had one item that she has. Remember, and these are things that so far that we can do these things, but remember that there is work that we're already doing as well. Just a reminder out there when we're doing these things. So as far as going back to Melissa's request, that providing more detail about the selection process and criteria for all of these things is something that we can do. And when our staff are preparing the board updates, that I don't anticipate that being an added burden. I do want to make sure that I think we've gone around and around about what we're providing the board for the candidates for our administrative positions. I thought we were doing that. So what I'll do is I'll prepare something and make it very clear. This is what we think you want. And I'll share that with the board. And if there's other feedback, then at least we got it in writing. So we're all clear on exactly what we want that way. So I think there's two different things that way. But that one, I think I see nods and it looks like everyone's okay with that for that item, right? That's good with that one?
Okay, so okay. we have three.
The next item is the resolution for support a waiver of the CASP testing for the 2021 school year. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's one we can do. I have NHTA's resolution, and we can come up with we can modify, use the pieces, the chunks there, and come up with something, and we can bring that to the board. We have plenty of time to do that by the 9th. So that's not a problem.
That's done.
All right, so we got those two.
Okay.
Now we can move on.
So, Melissa, do you want to keep your hand raised for the second type? Okay, let me go with the member Lance Nishida.
Actually, all right. Well, we'll bring this up in the governance session, and I just want to give a particular point of view on the appointments and all the information that's being requested during these appointments. And we'll talk about this more in the governance session, and I don't want to cloud this particular agenda item, but one of the roles of the board is to empower the superintendent to make these appointments on our behalf. And so what our job is to ensure that we understand the criteria, but in terms of the actual selection, that is something that I think we need to start ensuring that everybody understands their role and responsibility. We have one employee, and that's the superintendent, and we designate the superintendent to make those levels of appointments. And so we add friction to the process without maybe not adding a ton of value when we start to, at least the way that I feel about it, and I don't know if you guys are feel the same way about it, when we start to micromanage the process, because we can't scale if we are leaning in that heavily on hiring decisions. That's my point of view. That's all I'll say right now. We could say more at the governance session, but that is one of those things where it's helpful to have board member role clarity and what we're all supposed to be contributing to this process. So that's all I'll say about that. We could take it up at the governance session for more detail.
Thank you, Member Nishira. Yes, definitely we will discuss at the governance session. So I would like to give a chance to Member Linda Canlis again. You are muted. You are muted.
I want to go back to the suggestions and the requests that Melissa has brought up. Yes, definitely we should get more information regarding the people we're hiring. That's definitely useful. But as far as the hiring process, I think, again, Mr. Nishihara puts it clearly that at the governance session, we need to really make sure everybody's clear of our roles and responsibilities. I think most of you have seen the presentation on what we are to be making decision on and what we designate the superintendent to be doing. So, and again, I think hopefully it will be covered at the governance session, the roles and responsibilities, so that we're clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I see now, Lance, can you please lower your hand if you don't have any more comments? And Member Melissa Sean Mallory, would you like to share your second point? I know we might not be having more requests, but then it's good to share your mind so that we can have those topics in the governance session.
Yes, thank you. First, in regards to my request, as a new trustee, I don't believe that it is clear to me what the criteria have been to select the administrators that we have approved. And I do believe that the information that was given was not sufficient. So we'll talk about it more at the governance meeting, I'm sure, in more detail. But my second request is that, I did bring up several times the mental health of our students. And I'm wondering if we can request the staff to let us know, what's being done to help our students through this difficult time. I mean, especially younger students don't necessarily have the tools that adults would have to process trauma. And I'm hearing from my community that, kids are really struggling with this. And I know that we have some resources with Youth and Family Services, as well as Tiburcio Vasquez and other services for counseling. But what I'm hearing is that there's not enough capacity to see everyone one-on-one. So what I'm hoping is that we can look into options for with our partners for group counseling or group support sessions. And I would just like to have staff come back with with what we've got going on and what we can do to better support our students.
Thank you, Member Melissa Sean Mallory. Dr. Thompson, do you have anything to say in regard to this mental health of our students? Do you have anything to say? You have any plan, or do you want to present it, or can it be done, or you want to bring the information in the later session?
Well, first of all, I totally agree with Trustee Sean Mallory. This is a significant issue, and it's something that every school district across the country is dealing with right now. And it's in the capacity of school districts. We're not mental health agencies. We are school districts. We educate children. And to scale this, unfortunately, we all know that the mental health issues in our families, they don't stay at home, and they are staying at home right now, which is part of the problem, because we don't get to see them and identify them and help connect them better. So it is a significant issue for all of us. One of the things that I think would be good for the board to see is the mental health resources that we currently have available, where we have connections. For example, Mr. Pisani and his department, they have a whole family. If you go to our website, there's a whole family resource section with a whole mental health section within that, right on the right-hand side of our website, right there. So, making sure that the board is aware of what we do have is something that I think would be good, and something to be good for the public to know as well. The harder part is what's next, because Trustee Sean Mallory is also correct. We don't have the capacity to do in-person intakes and meetings for all of our we just don't. That capacity does not exist within our system. And we try to match people up with the resources in the community, but even those resources are taxed. So it is a community-wide problem across our community, the Bay Area, the state, and the country right now. But so we can at least do the first part, because I think it would be good for all of you when you hear about these questions, We had a 911 call this afternoon, and based on a need that was happening in a household at one of our schools. And so these things are big issues. So what I can get is kind of a summary of where of all of the access, all of the different links, all of the different connections, all of the different relationships we have, and provide that so you can take a look at that. The next part is the challenging part, is what can we do to, I don't know what I'll have there, but we can talk about it. We can share it. I can share it with all of you. So that part I can get for you.
So if you agree with this request from member Melissa and Mallory, if you agree to, so that our superintendent can, provide us update, then you don't need to have your hand. If you disagree, then you can raise your hand at this time. So I don't see any disagreement. So please provide the update whenever in the next board meeting, or maybe share us through the BCC that this is we are going to provide in the future. I don't see any more hands up, and I am glad that there are no more discussion points, and we can adjourn the meeting at 8:27.
I just want to say good